Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Wellness Lounge podcast series. Today, we're very lucky to be joined by Reb Veale. Reb, who is actually joining us from the UK, although it looks like Hawaii there in the background. I said that to you the other day. It looks like it's this balmy tropical place, but we can talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Reb, who has a company, Reb Veale Solutions, is an NLP coach, an mBIT coach, and has a lot of other tools under her belt. You're very welcome to the Wellness Lounge, Reb.
Thank you very much indeed, Gillian. It's such a pleasure we had a lovely chat the other day, and I've been following the page on Facebook, listening into other people's talks and recipes and exercising routines and things, and it's been awesome. Loving it.
Thank you. That's great to hear. Yeah, it's been such a success, if that's the right word. We've had such lovely feedback, and I guess when you look at wellness, there is all the different pillars to wellness, and also today when we look at coaching, there's all different types of coaching as well. So you may have seen on our page that we have an empowerment coach, we have a leadership coach, we have a Heal Your Life coach, we have me, a wellness coach. But before we get into what an mBIT coach is, tell us a little bit about yourself. So you're over in the UK and you have a company, Reb Veale Solutions. Love the name. So you're helping people to reveal their own solutions, is it?
Absolutely, yeah. And there's a presupposition that the solutions are there. We just sometimes need to look in a different place, or look differently, or not even look, just let it arise. So yes, I'm in the UK, in Gloucester, sort of halfway between Bristol and Birmingham. Okay. And yeah, like many of the people in the Wellness Lounge, both listeners, people following, and also some of the coaches, therapists and practitioners you've been having contribute as well. I've got a pretty varied background, eclectic background. So some of the aspects of that background, originally I came from working in HR many years ago, when it was still called personnel, that long ago. So I came from a management background in corporate, so I've done quite a lot of learning and development, leadership development. And along the way, I found out probably about 25 years ago about coaching. Okay. And it fascinated me, the fact that I didn't have to have all the answers and I could facilitate somebody else to find their own. So I started studying coaching and qualifying in it, and about the same time got interested in both occupational psychology and also NLP. Some of your viewers will know neuro-linguistic programming. So studied it, and over the years I'm lucky enough to have become an NLP Master Trainer, and I still train NLP at the moment, seeking to do that virtually rather than face to face, but hopefully one day in-person programs will exist again. And then in about 2013, early 2013, I fell down a wormhole in the internet, and I found this thing called mBraining, multiple braining. And I was lucky enough to be on the first UK coach certification in mBIT, multiple brain integration techniques. So I became an mBIT coach, and then subsequently an mBIT trainer and mBIT master coach. I would probably say mBIT is about maybe 80-85% of my work now. Yeah, and aside from being an mBIT trainer and master coach and NLP master trainer, I'm also still a practicing occupational psychologist. I trained psychotherapeutically, and I'm also a yaya, which is Greek for grandma. So I have a gorgeous 4-year-old, four and a quarter, as you might say. Yeah, 4.25-year-old granddaughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. That's really, really nice. And, before we get into, and it's fascinating, your journey there, you're talking about 25 years of really getting to know people getting to know behaviors, getting to know the psychology around decisions. But, you know, one thing that really struck me, because it was something that I loved when I went to become a coach, is I always felt this need to, you know, help people, or for want of a better phrase, but it's been kind of a limiting belief I've had, fix people, you know. And what coaching is really is empowering people, giving them the tools to look themselves at the answers that they have within them, and I suppose giving people the confidence to do that. And that's an amazing, you know, unique and opportune thing to have, you know, in our kind of toolkit as such, to be able to facilitate changes with people, healing with people. And, you know, at this time, I think a lot of people have been triggered emotionally. There's a lot of stress, and you know, there's different things happening in different countries. So I know, you know, watching the news in the UK today, you're kind of a different kind of, there's different things happening over there than there is to Ireland. There's different things happening. We've got people in across Europe on the page as well. So, you know, everyone's a little bit different. Everyone's been affected differently. Everybody's been triggered a little bit differently as well. So I do think it's very important for people to feel those feelings. And what's great about coaching is that's kind of a process to help people to really tune into, you know, what those feelings are. But before we get into mBIT a little bit more, how has your time been? So you mentioned there that now you have the challenge of trying to put some of your programs and deliver online. So how has the last 2 months been for you?
It's a really interesting time in all sorts of ways. I remember once I was training an mBIT coach certification, and most of the time these days I co-train with my husband Mark, and because he's also an NLP trainer these days and an mBIT trainer as well. And I remember one of the participants said, "Oh, you must have an amazing relationship where you never have any arguments and it's always plain sailing." We just looked at each other and there was this beautiful pause before we both burst out laughing. Because you'd imagine that someone who's done some psychotherapy, is a master coach and all the rest of it, oh, just, you know, I've serenely been sailing through the past 2 months. Not so much necessarily. For the most part, I've been pretty calm. I've had days or hours or moments where I freaked out a bit because particularly at the beginning, I think I was really eager to learn more about what was going on. And after about the first week, particularly after what many people call lockdown, although I've got a few friends in mBraining who call it compassionate homing or cocooning, which are really nice reframes actually. So after the first week of cocooning, I realized, wow, I hardly ever watch the news, and yet I've been watching probably 4 or 5 news bulletins a day on TV and reading the paper electronically, and it was actually, and listening to my own language, doing my head in. And my head was telling me all sorts of stories about what might happen, what if, and it was getting me quite anxious. So I just kind of had a word with myself, calmed down, and thought, okay, so I'm just going to have a bit of a moratorium on watching news for a few days and just see what difference it makes. And I felt so much calmer. So now I restrict myself deliberately to, I'll look at electronic headlines of newspapers, and particularly a couple of newspapers that are less sensationalist, if you know what I mean, less doom-mongering. And I read those first thing in the morning, and I do or don't click on to the actual article. I just read some headlines, and then I don't watch news or listen to it throughout the day. I look at other things, read other articles, read journals, talk to colleagues and friends virtually, and then get on with doing stuff throughout the day. And by and large, and it's only my solution, it's not universal, by and large, that seems to be working for me. I'm a bit calmer, a bit happier, I feel a bit more well in myself, a bit more balanced.
Yes, yeah, great. I mean, it's having that conscious awareness that you were able to tune in with, okay, you know, I'm a bit anxious, I'm a bit up in my head, and then practicing what you preach, which is kind of like, okay, what can I do differently? What can I do to support myself? And you know, I love that, and that's what we've been trying to put in front of people with the different modalities in the wellness lounge. And sometimes it's distracting yourself by a nice recipe, or doing the EFT, or the reflection, you know, which coaches are kind of powerful in doing, is getting people to reflect and getting people to tune in. So thank you for sharing, you know, that, and we all share that, you know, that we don't always practice what we preach. We don't always do it 100%. And I'm not sure I've ever met anyone who has said they do it 100%, but it's about getting back on the horse, isn't it? It's about actually saying, okay, something's, you know, I'm human, having a human response to this. How can I go back inside, and how can I actually help myself? So that is, you know, I think that's what, you know, is so important right now, is helping people to help themselves.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I love the fact you said we're humans having a human response. We're all works in progress. None of us is done. None of us is transcended. So one of the co-authors, probably the main research author of the book, and particularly the field of mBraining, Grant Suzalu, very sadly, no longer with us. But he used to say, do you know, we're not human doings. And in fact, we're not even human beings.
Yeah.
We're human becomings.
Oh, nice. I haven't heard that one. Yeah.
And as soon as I think in that way, and I am more patient with myself, I realize, okay, even if I just mess something up, or even if I got in a tizzy with myself or anxious, or even if I fell off the wagon with the news or whatever it might be, it's okay, because the next moment I get to choose.
Yeah, love it. Human becomings. Love it. Yeah, 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 yeah. It takes the pressure off, doesn't it?
Yeah, right
It
off.
takes the, you know, yeah, that we're in the process.
Yeah, we're all in process.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, mBraining, tell us a little bit about, so you said you came across it in 2013. So you had done a huge amount of work up to that stage. What drew you to this kind of coaching? What is this type of coaching?
So a bit like you said earlier on, I've always been fascinated with people. So whether it be anthropology at university, anthropology and politics at university, whether it be psychology, managing people in the workplace, coaching, all of those things, NLP, all fascinated me, how people work, our inner workings, if you like. So I was doing some research, which is kind of a euphemism for, I was disappearing into the internet one day in early 2013, and I found this article that led me to a website called, it's still the main website, all the W's, mBraining.com, and I came across this amazing website, and it's a really difficult thing to explain, but there might be times in your life where you had, for a fleeting moment, absolute certainty that something was crucially important. You couldn't explain why or rationalize it, but you just knew. And I had one of those moments. And I quickly sent off an email to Grant Suzalu, the guy who had this website, and I said, I can't explain it, but I just know I need to do this training. It's a 4-day coach certification training. I need to do it, but I can't afford to come to Australia, which was where he was based and where the website was based. Can't afford to come. What can I do? And he sent me an email back literally within about an hour and said, you could believe in coincidence, or you could just take it on trust that I've just signed a deal with 2 guys in the UK to come over with the other co-author, Marvin, and co-train the first mBIT coach certification in the UK, the first one in Europe actually as well. So get in touch, here's his contact details. And
Wow.
that was it. So it's one of those moments
Fine.
where
Yeah.
absolutely, if you wanted a sign of synchronicity, that was it. And then I joined the course and I discovered the book.
Okay.
This book,
So
mBraining.
Okay, yes,
Using your multiple brains to do cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and from that moment when I did the course, I knew that this would be a really important part of my life and my work ongoing.
Wow. So tell me, multiple brains. Are they saying that we have more than one up here, or are there different areas of our body?
It's a beautiful question. I know some of your viewers and your practitioners might be familiar with the triune brain theory, that, you know, there are 3 different parts of our head brain. And whether that is or isn't the case, because I think there's some scientific doubt over that now in terms of they're not separate necessarily or evolved separately. Actually, when you ask most people, like your Joe in the street, point to your brain, where do most of them point? Most of them point to their head. And it's very true. Of course, we have a brain in our head, and it's a really complex piece of kit. It's responsible for making amazing decisions, processing data. Like AI, artificial intelligence, is really only just starting to be able to match that. However, pretty cutting edge neuroscience also has stipulated that our heart counts as a brain in its own right, and so does our gut. So it's not me, it's not Marvin or Grant, the 2 co-authors, stating, or anybody else from the book stating that these are brains. It's neuroscientists that are stating their brains. Wow. So our heart was the term brain was coined particularly by Professor Dr. Michael Gershon from the field of neurocardiology. So the field of how the heart functions as a brain. And then, sorry, that was Professor Michael Armour. My name's wrong. Professor Michael Gershon was from the field of neurogastroenterology, which is the field that sees our distributed gut as a brain. And I say distributed because it's all the way between the inside of our lips and inside our mouth, all the way through our esophagus, our gullet, our stomach, our small and large intestine, all the way through to our anus. So everything, and at the moment, the field of neurogastroenterology counts pretty much all of our intestines, all bar our heart, as gut brain. So our lungs are counted as part of our gut brain, our kidneys, our liver, pancreas, all of those count as gut brain.
Wow. So really this is bringing awareness to kind of things that we may know from the point of view. Coaching helps people to make decisions. Coaching helps people to become clear about things. And as I say to people, when they want change, it's a part of them telling them they're not happy with where they're at. And coaching maybe helps give clarity around what that change could look like and how to go about that. So there becomes all these options and decisions. And so when we were speaking about this the other day, for me to have a better understanding, and I'll share my own experience where I worked with an mBIT coach, and that's why I was so excited about talking to you, because people need to understand, you know, how to align their different brains as such. That it's been really, really funny in a sense, because we've all grown up hearing about making gut decisions.
Yeah.
You know? And we've all, you know, had times where, particularly around relationships, where people say, you know, you have to make that decision with your head, not your heart. So we're using all this terminology. My gut told me not to go for that job. I shouldn't have stayed in that job because, you know, I was so hurt, you know, it was really affecting my heart or whatever. There's all these different things. And yet then when we put something around this and we say mBraining, people are like, what, you know, but it's actually what we're doing anyway. So it's so fascinating when a coach will give you awareness around this. And what I want to share with you and the people tuning in. So Denise obviously trained with yourselves, Denise O'Brien on our page, and she's an mBIT coach. And she was just fascinated with this work because a lot of the different work that we do, so Denise is bringing a lot of Louise Hay work to the page, which is a lot of heart stuff, you know. And it's something that we as coaches, because of our own personal development, we would know at times that we're very much up in our head, and we're thinking as opposed to feeling, you know. And then people talk about your intuition being in your gut. So we would be very open to the fact that decisions aren't always necessarily right if we're making them from our head. You're going to talk a little bit about this in a second. So Denise and I spoke about 18 months ago, and I had a problem, and I couldn't figure out what to do, what decision. And so she said, can I do this meditation with you that I've learned? And she was on the phone and I was listening, and I said, yeah, absolutely. And within, I can't remember how long that meditation was. It wasn't like it was 20 minutes, but Denise got me to tune into what my head was saying, what my heart was saying, and what my gut was saying. And there was thoughts and images coming up in all the different brains, and they were all different. And for me, in that particular decision, there was fear in the head. There was a little bit of fear, but love in the heart, and there was trust in the gut, you know, but there was actual images with it. And so it really gave me clarity. But I was like, Denise, oh my God, how do we make any decisions? How can we actually, you know, feel like the right decision if they're all out of sync, you know? So tell us a little bit about tuning into those different areas, and what is the thought process behind it, and are we supposed to be all aligned for it to be the right decision?
Yeah, beautiful. And you hit the nail right on the head. So the techniques that sit around the theory that Grant and Marvin really distilled together, they married, and I think one of the absolute genius parts, particularly of Grant's contribution of bringing the science to the fore, is he distilled the science and realized, hang on a minute, it's saying exactly the same thing as all these ancient wisdom traditions and knowledge that we've known for millennia, which is why, as you say, it's so familiar. And the whole principle behind it is, we have these three brains and they contribute differently, and they do perceive differently, and they may have different views or perceptions on a particular situation or a decision. Each of us has probably made decisions in the past at some point that may not have gone so well for us. And if we look back on them, okay, so what was going on? Did we make that decision from just one or maybe just two of our brains? Did we involve them all? Maybe unconsciously, but consciously we didn't know they existed. So we didn't perhaps give them the respect they deserve. In contrast, if there's something in your life that you're truly relaxed about or happy with, and you just feel it was such a good decision for you to bring that about, or to say yes to it, or whatever it was, you'll notice, if you check in with, you know, what do I think about it? What did I really think? And what's truly important to me about it? What do I love about it? How do I feel emotionally about it? And what action did I take? Or what did I stop doing? And how does it represent who I am deep down? You'll notice that if all three of those are fulfilled, it feels like true alignment. And when we're that aligned and all the brains have been consulted and they're all together in this, then actually that's when we get in our flow.
Wow, I love that, in our flow. So it's not necessarily that they all have to have the same answer or they all have to feel the same, but it's actually acknowledging all those parts and moving in the right direction, really.
It's about acknowledging them and learning from each of them. Okay. So part of the process that we teach in the mBIT coach certification is, first of all, communicating with them and then getting them to sing off the same hymn sheet, if you like, or to come together in a way that is aligned. Doesn't mean they all instantly agree, but it's really valuable. So a quote that we often use in NLP is wisdom comes from multiple perspectives. So it's not just about taking one of those. And as I mentioned to you the other day, in our society, and I mean primarily sort of Western society, as it were, we tend to have elevated the head to this superhero status. We only ever listen to the head.
Yes.
Go mad over data and information, and we can't make a decision until we've got more and more information. And that's probably led to a really unbalanced view of things, where we don't listen to our hearts as much as perhaps might be beneficial, or we don't listen to our gut intuition, as you mentioned earlier on. But equally, it's not about saying, oh, the head's bad, the other two are good.
Yeah.
It's about having them all in balance and listening to each other, ask their gut questions. And that process is iterative. So the more we do that gently, spaciously, what usually happens is they come to their own sustainable, wise decision for themselves that emerges from all of their input from the multiple brains. And as you experienced through Denise's exquisite mBIT work with you, because she's an amazing mBIT coach, then, yeah, something comes that you perhaps wouldn't have realized before. And a sense of calmness and kind of it sits well with you. I'm very aware of my language now.
Yeah, I think it's kind of helping as well with regards taking stock and really figuring out the emotions behind some decisions. So be it fear, be it anxiety, be it excitement, be it passion, be it joy, be it all of those. So it's about making more informed, and I would think powerful, wiser, as you said, I like that word, wiser decisions that really are honoring your past experiences, where you want to go. And so all those kind of parts of you, and I guess ultimately then it's kind of you're led by that. You can decide by that. So sometimes when we explore the fear, we have an understanding of it, so therefore we don't always make a decision based on it. We're like, okay, I know that's there and I know why that's there, but that was something in the past, but I also know that this is what I really want to do, so what do I need to do? So I think it's really powerful, even more powerful when you don't get into the story with your clients, because it's all this internal processing themselves and giving them that tool to go forward. And you know, that's what we always say to our clients, isn't it? We don't want to be with our clients for 2-3 years consistently every week relying on us. We want them to come to the conclusions themselves, so that they can take that into future decision making and future choices in their own life. So the head, the heart, the gut. What I loved when we were talking the other day, you were talking about society putting such an emphasis on the word head. Remind me about all the different places we hear the word head. I thought this was really, really good.
So one of the amazing things about mBraining, it's one of those, you know, when you're completely unaware of something and then someone makes you consciously aware of it, you suddenly start seeing and hearing it everywhere. So when I first did mBraining, they said, you know, the office where most people in your company are based, what's that called? And I said it to you the other day, and
Yeah, head office.
head office, exactly. So we've got head office, headquarters, the head of the society, head of the family. Give me
Headmaster.
a headmaster, give me a heads up.
Yes.
We use the word head really to mean the executive function. We sort of elevate it to this status that I'm not saying that it's not a really amazing brain. It is an amazing brain. It's only one of them, though. It's not the senior brain. It's not the, it shouldn't be at the head of the table.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many. When I was thinking about that afterwards, and I was like, oh my God, absolutely. But because again, I think I shared with the page before that when I started to do a little bit of work on myself and get to know myself, which, even during this time, I've done a lot of work. So I've gone to know parts of me that I didn't even really know that were there. And it's fascinating because it helps you understand yourself and the decisions that you make and go easier on yourself. But when you were saying that the other day, it was like, wow, because when I did get into the work, I was doing my first training course to train in Heal Your Life workshop facilitator. And our lovely teacher, course director, Eileen Clare, who's in Kilrush in Clare in Ireland, she was gently guiding me throughout the 8 days that we were there to move from my head into my heart, and I was almost becoming irritated by it because I was like, what does that mean? Because I was never encouraged to go into the heart. And so I think that we're often encouraged to be in our head, to think. Even, parents or teachers would say, just think, nobody said, just feel, and that's something that I've realized, that sometimes your thoughts don't really work towards what you want, and aren't always right either. And once you can kind of be clear about if the head is working for you by really tuning into the other areas, what does the heart want, what does the gut want, it's really beautiful. It's really honoring all parts of you. And now that again, you said at the beginning, the head part of us wants that science, so there's scientists out there saying, hey, listen, there are 3 brains. We've heard it from the point of view of our health, and our gut health has been a lot of emphasis on this gut being from that nutrition and the functioning of the body, really, really important, the gut brain. But now from the emotional side of things as well, I think that's really important for people to realize and understand that.
Yeah, it really makes sense of, most of the people listening will have heard the term emotional intelligence. And it really makes sense of that because we have a saying in mBIT, which is the heart leads. So that's implicit in the process that we use. It's implicit in the way the model is formed. And actually, if you listen to the phrase, it's at the heart of the matter.
Yes.
When it comes to us as humans, it's right at the heart of things.
Yes.
So our head is fantastic at all the things you mentioned: logic, creating innovation, ideas, data, processing, all those sorts of things. But it's really, really poor at emoting. And we all know that actually when we fall in love, then it's not the limbic structures in our head that do that emoting. It's actually, they're receiving the information from our heart. So our heart is so amazing at not only processing emotions and helping us feel those emotions, but also our relationships, and also our values. So a lot of your coaches will work with values. What's important to you in the context of, which of these is most important? Well, that's a values question. And it's useful for us as coaches to know that our values live in our heart. And in terms of our gut, similarly, our gut doesn't do emotions, it doesn't do ideas. Our gut looks after our security, our safety, our self-preservation. It
Okay.
also looks after who we are. So have you ever heard anyone say, who I am up high?
Yeah.
People don't tend to say that. People tend to say, who I am deep down. And they
Mm.
do that with unconscious wisdom
Mm-hmm.
because our gut is our seat of identity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so they always have different jobs, a different contribution to make. So that's why coming into alignment is so important. And in mBIT, we believe that we can only come to alignment ourselves, and the same for our coachees,
Mm.
if they come from balance. So you mentioned a few of the emotions or states that people may be experiencing during this time of cocooning or whatever's
Mm-hmm.
going on for them.
Compassionate home stay.
Compassionate homing, yeah, exactly, or lockdown or whatever's going on. And also thinking about our key workers as well. So people who
Mm.
have been having to go outside the home and go to work, whether they're doctors, nurses, clinicians, teachers, postal workers, shop workers, refuse collectors, all of these people who have been doing different things to those of us who've been staying at home.
Mm.
So whatever they've been experiencing, it's about honoring that and then making sure we come to balance before making a decision. So
Mm.
I mentioned, or you mentioned fearing earlier on, and fear. So Grant used to say there are two ways of explaining fear.
Mm.
One would be forget everything and run,
Yeah. Yeah.
which we know that it tends to follow us. It's a bit like
Yeah.
our shadow, it comes with us, we just kid ourselves. Um, or there's feel everything and rise.
Mm. Mm.
So if we honor our fear and we just ask our gut or our heart or our head, okay, for what purpose are you offering me this fear or fearing? What is there for me to take from this? What is there for me to learn? And then whatever emotion or state or behavior or thought pattern we've had up until then,
Mm.
to notice, and I mentioned our nervous system earlier on, one of the branches of our nervous system that we particularly work with in mBraining is our autonomic. It's from the Greek athos, self, so it's our other than conscious nervous system. So our autonomic nervous system, I've noticed a few of your contributors already have talked about fight or flight, for
Mm.
example.
Mm.
Well, they're both one branch of the autonomic, which is our sympathetic nervous system. It's
Mm.
where we primevally ready ourselves to either fight something or
Mm.
flee and get out of there. So that's one branch that readies us to respond. But there's also our equal and opposite, our parasympathetic nervous system, which is sometimes called our rest and repose. So
Mm.
that's where we relax. It's the opposite.
Mm.
Now, a lot of people might imagine, so if I feel fear, what I need to do is relax. Partly right, because fear is a sympathetic fight or flight response. And you notice when you get fearful or anxious, you might get those signs like either cold sweats or your
Mhm.
heart might start racing.
Mhm.
So we do need to relax a bit in order
Mhm.
to calm down, but not so much that we're a bit tranced out, like we are in hypnosis or something, just
Okay.
way chilled and way relaxed.
Yeah.
We also don't make particularly good decisions when we're completely chilled out and really laid back.
Okay.
We need to come to that beautiful middle space, that balance where our sympathetic,
Mm.
fight or flight, and our parasympathetic, our rest and repose, are beautifully balanced.
Ooh.
And that's a state that in mBraining we refer to mostly as calm alert.
I never heard of that.
Yeah, so calm is parasympathetic
Mhm.
and alert is sympathetic. So
Okay.
we're both, but we're in the middle. Because once we've done that, so if you try on perhaps just a small situation, think about perhaps a meal that you had in the past at some point. Maybe when we were allowed to be in a restaurant or cafe and
Oh,
you
remember
chose a
those?
meal. Perhaps there was a meal where you made a choice from the menu that when you ate it,
Yeah.
you thought, oh, yeah, I should have gone for that one instead. So that sort of feeling of mild disappointment, we're not going to go any more serious than mild disappointment at the moment. Just try on for a moment, how did that feel? Just go inside, perhaps your gut, your heart, and your head. Notice what's there, that mild disappointment. So if I try on for size one of those experiences for me, I noticed that my head was going, oh, and tutting.
Yeah.
And my head was doing a bit of, oh, you knew you should have gone for that
Yeah.
instead.
Too. Yeah.
You really fancied that one. Why
Being
didn't you go
annoyed.
for that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I noticed my head's going a little bit sympathetic and giving me a bit of earache. And I noticed my heart's going, oh.
That real disappointment.
That's a bit of a letdown. It's almost giving a sigh. So my heart's a bit parasympathetic. It's a bit lower energy. And my gut's doing that as well. My gut's also going, oh. It's a bit, oh, I really wanted something else. Why didn't you give me something nice? So our brains are either a bit high energy or a bit low energy. And what's best to do is notice that and then go, okay, head, just calm down for the moment. When you're choosing dessert, what are your criteria for dessert? What's the information you need? What would be a successful decision from balance? Then asking your heart, okay, heart, your turn.
Okay.
What do you truly want? What would really be a nice choice for you? And then, seeing as this is dessert, we're talking about tuning into your gut and asking your gut, okay, gut, what would be yummy? What would be really delicious that would feel good for you? Not too heavy, not too light, not too sweet, not too savory. What would be nice for you right now? And when all of them come from balance, you're probably going to make a choice that you enjoy it while you're eating it, and afterwards you feel good about that decision and go, yeah, that worked. And it's the same when we're making bigger decisions in our lives, whether it's about a new job we might be going for, whether it's about, do I feel safe going to the shop? What would make me feel safer going to the shop or going into work? So making sure that we're coming not from either really on the edge of our seat and getting a little bit, high energy and fight or flight, but neither so chill that, whatever, don't care. So relaxed that we're not really being responsible to ourselves. Coming from that calm alert. And the way to do that we particularly do in mBraining is through what we call balanced breathing.
Okay.
So what I thought would be kind of cool is if just for about a minute and a half, did some balanced breathing, all of us together.
Oh, brilliant.
Would that be okay?
Yes. Yeah. I was just talking to a client this morning about the power of the breath, just actually breathing. Yeah.
It's one of those beautiful things, again, that both ancient wisdom traditions, whether it be yoga, any faith-based traditions, every religion has breathing in its practice, meditation, Reiki, all sorts of things have breath work in them. And the great thing is in mBraining, we have the science that proves not only that it works, but how it works and why it works as well. So once again, those things coming together. So if just for a moment we each identify a situation in our lives or a decision that we'd like to make without putting any pressure on ourselves for the moment, just identify a context. And we don't need to tell anyone about that, but when we have that context, just either eyes open or closed as is comfortable for each of us. And what I'd like us to do is to breathe in. Imagine a sine wave, you know, from school, that sine wave, just that beautiful undulation. Imagine we're going to breathe in for 6 seconds and smoothly transition, and out for 6 seconds and smoothly transition in for 6 seconds. Now, if that's too long, that's fine. Make it 4 or 5. If you're already a yogi and that's too fast, make it 10 seconds. That's fine. But just make it flow evenly. And the key thing is the same count in as out. So balanced breathing is crucial. So I'm going to leave you to find your own rhythm of breathing in and out. Evenly and easily. And when you breathe in all the way to the belly. And letting the breath flow out. And as you carry on that breathing, just aiming for calm, alert, letting it flow. First of all, asking your heart as you carry on breathing, what's truly important to your heart about this context? What do you truly want? As you breathe evenly and easily. And then letting that breath and focus flow up to your head. And inquire of your head. What facts is your head really aware of? What do you know about this context? As you carry on breathing, perhaps there are more facts that you need, and notice what those are too. As you allow that breath to continue flowing from calm, alert, and flowing back down. And on your next breath out, go down to your gut. And perhaps pop a hand on your belly. And just ask your gut. What does your gut deeply sense about you in relation to this context, who you are? What does your gut need to feel safe and secure? As you carry on breathing, and giving that time, noticing it may not be a word, it may be a picture, or a sensation, or a metaphor. With your next breath in, breathe up, back to your heart. And just let your heart enjoy those last few breaths in and out. And just thank inwardly. Thank each of your multiple brains for their communication, for whatever pictures or sensations or words they offered. And then for those that have closed their eyes, they can come back into the room and open their eyes. And we can all carry on breathing, because breathing's really good for us.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, just noticing the different quality when we breathe evenly, that balanced breathing of equal in and out breath, noticing how the communication might be different, both calm and alert.
Yeah, it was really, I loved that you were in the heart and breathing up and then breathing down. It's even following that, and again that even that visualization of acknowledging those different areas, you know, and there does seem to be like a straight line-ish, you know, that's kind of, you know, and it's actually breathing into that straight line, which you talked about at the beginning, alignment, you know, and just kind of giving air to all those. Yeah, there's something beautiful about that. I think we have learned so much from you today, Reb, from the point of view of when we're making decisions to really honor those three brains. And I love that. I even think the tone of my voice has changed there after that breathing. The breathing is so, I was just having this conversation this morning. We don't stop and breathe as much. One thing that was new for me is that balance, you know, getting into that balance. So, and realizing that, you know, those brains all work for us. So if we can just get into the center of that. And like what you said, if we're too relaxed or if we're too going one way or the other, it may not be the best place for us to make the most informed, wisest decisions. So, yeah.
And incidentally, it's not just for wise decision making, it's for looking after ourselves and our mental health, our emotional health, our physiological health. So you mentioned earlier on that many people are familiar with looking after our gut for our overall health now. So one of the things that is only really just becoming publicized through things like mBraining is that most of our immune system response and capability is derived from our gut. So actually, if we look after our gut, not only by eating lots of fresh fruit and veg, maybe organic food where we can, maybe staying hydrated, getting a little bit of exercise, all those sorts of things, but also listening to our gut and calmly involving it in decisions and taking it into account, actually our immune system will work better. So you mentioned earlier on at the beginning of this call about fearing, anxietying, maybe stressing, listening to those, honoring where they come from, what's the message they're sharing for us, and then asking our gut what it deeply needs for us to let that go and be safe and be happy and secure, asking our heart what it needs and what our head what it needs, actually is going to help us to be optimally immune healthy. So to be able to stay physically safe as well as mentally and emotionally. So there is a wider purpose other than just feeling kind of good on a Tuesday or whenever it might be.
Yeah, that's absolutely fascinating. So if people want to find more, I found out more, it's called mBraining.
It is.
You are an mBIT coach. Reb Veale, revealsolutions.co.uk. Is that where people can find more?
Yeah, they absolutely can. There's also, as you mentioned, Denise O'Brien. She's based in Ireland. She's an mBIT coach. If you look on mbraining.co.uk, it also includes Ireland in terms of mBIT coaches. There's also an mBIT trainer in Ireland, Bernie Rogers, and there are other mBIT coaches as well. So, and they exist all around the world. I think it's something like 38 or 39 countries now. And there are just under 2,500 mBIT coaches. So there's likely to be one near you. And these days, in any case, we all work via Zoom or Skype or other virtual platforms.
Yeah, so if there's people out there feeling a bit stuck, people are thinking, okay, this sounds interesting, I never thought about that, or people who've been told for years, oh, you're all up in your head, or you never listen to your gut, or you make decisions with your heart and it's always the wrong decision. There's so many people that are thinking, oh God, that's me, so I find it fascinating. I definitely will want to work with Denise and work with yourself a little bit more around my own three brains as well. So I think that this is, if you want to have a relationship with yourself, if you want to get to know yourself, I think this is a very, very powerful way of doing so. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're so welcome.
Fascinating. And I look forward to learning more. And hopefully doing some courses with you as well. I see I'm so relaxed from the breathing now, I can hardly talk. Reb, thank you so much. Take care of yourself, and thank you for supporting the page, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. I do feel, think, and absolutely am convinced that the Wellness Lounge is such a valuable resource now and in the future for so many of us. So thank you and all of your contributors, practitioners, therapists, for everything you do. Personally, I'm truly grateful.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.